So this is the landing page of the dashboard. Here you can see the general information about who this dashboard is for, what you can do here, why use this, getting around, and also the Civic impact framework is represented here. These are the different domains that we have used in this dashboard. And if you click here, you can look at detailed information about the framework. So let's start here. When we start here, it takes us to this guidance page where you can follow these steps to make the most out of this dashboard. You choose your university from a drop-down menu, and in some parts of the dashboard you can change university or select more than one to benchmark yourself at. You can look at the data. You will see a series of charts and tables, and for benchmarking you can pick the universities to compare with. There's some additional detail on the pages to understand what the data means, and you can download data and reports according to this guidance here. So let's start. We first start with selecting our university. So this is a general overview of universities in England. The circles represent the size of the university. So bigger and darker circles mean that the university is bigger. And here at the top, you can see the navigation. So home takes you to the landing page. Here you can select your university. These are the different domains, and you can have a look at the data sources if you want it. So let's start by selecting our university. Let's go with Birkbeck for this demonstration. You can see the student numbers here. In order to navigate different domains, you can select the many of tabs as according to this information here, but the dashboard is guiding us to the next action. We can select the cultural impact. What we see in cultural impact is a series of metrics, their yearly trends and their distributions relative to each other. Here you can see on the left where our university is selected, but if for any reason you have switched between universities, you might want to select your local authority again. And here on the left, you can see guidance information about how to make the most out of this page. What we are looking at is type of events at Birkbeck College: exhibitions, museum education, performance arts, public lectures. And in this trend, you can see that the university has peaked at 2020 for public lectures, and then obviously pandemic happened and things have picked up, and there seems to be a lot of activity under the category other. Maybe a data capture is not telling us what this data is, but you can see that there's significant numbers in year 2022, which we can see the distribution here. So on the right, there's more guidance about what to do within the domain. So it looks like there's more details for this university events. What we see here is a different distribution and more detail about the events of the university and the place. The distribution is between free events and chargeable events. So free events seem to be much larger in number, as you can see here. The year we're looking at is, you can change the year here. And you can also change the type of event here to see more details about that event. So we can see that the public lectures has significantly increased for this university. The next thing we can do is have a look at the place. So this is local authority numbers for Camden. That's where the higher education provider is. And these are different metrics about that place. So attending a museum or a gallery, attending an arts event, museum or gallery, and spend time doing an arts activity, than using a public library. You can see the effect of the pandemic here for these cultural activities. And in this graph, you would want to see things picking up for London. The dashboard tells me that I can benchmark my university with others. So when I click on that, what I see here, some guidance information on the left. And what I can do is for any metric that I choose, I can change the metric here and the type of event here. I can compare myself to other universities, and I can select or more than one university that I want to compare myself against. And I can see that, for example, for using a public library service, we're doing similar between these three universities. And regarding public lectures, Goldsmiths is doing slightly better compared to the others that I have selected. So at this point, I'm at the end of the cultural domain. And from this navigation, I can select any other domain, but I'm going to follow the order and have a look at economic. So here on the left is a guidance here. It says if you benchmark multiple universities before this page, select a university here. So we need to go back to the university that we were analyzing. Again, you can use the text here that guides you. What we're looking at here is some analysis on income and expenditure values for Birkbeck College. I can see the legend of the metric I'm looking at here for this graph. And on the right, we see some additional navigation. So this navigation, if it's on the right vertical, it shows you the navigation within the domain. So this tells me that within the economic impact domain, I have graduate employment, graduate activity, economy of place, and business and community interactions. So what I see here is income expenditure values, and there's a downward trend for total expenditure and unfortunately a little bit on total income as well for this university. And if I want to understand, for example, the distribution, the composition of these things, let's say in 2019, the majority of my income was tuition fees and body grants, and there's a large slice of the pie here for staff costs. And if I want to understand what's happening and go down to 2024, I can see that the staff cost pie is smaller. So that kind of like helps me analyze what's happening. So let's go in order. So this is the full-time employment of graduates of Birkbeck College. So again, I think there is an impact of the pandemic here. That's usually the case. The graduates in numbers, how many of them are coming postgraduate and undergraduate into full-time employment? And here in this lower graph, you can see the subject area. So from which subject areas are these students coming from? The highest is for this university is non-science, and the next one that's after that is science. And I can analyze this graph for different years to see if the distribution is changing. Okay, let's see. Next, we want to have a look at postgraduate activity. What are the graduates doing? Are they in full-time employment? Majority of them are. And which year am I looking at? I can see the year I'm looking at here. Let's say I want to have a look at more recent numbers. They're in full-time employment, employment and further study, part-time employment, and there's a chunk here for unemployed. And here I can see the same information in a pie chart that shows me the slices relative to others. And the next thing in this domain is economy of place. Here, what I'm looking at is business demography and survival rates of enterprises. So our local authority is London. And what we see here is the survival rates of businesses for 1 year survival, 2 year survival, and 3 year survival. Here there's a slight decrease in 1 year survival. And if we look at the business demography, here the metrics we're looking at are count of active enterprises, birth of enterprises, and deaths of enterprises. And between 2022 and 2023, there's a slight increase, for example. And the next thing for economic impact is business and community interactions. So what we see here is the number and value of contracts that the higher education provider have with companies to deliver consultancy, research, or facilities and equipment related services. So these values are either in pounds or we can have a look at the number of these services as well. And this is a trend over time. So let's say for this university, I want to analyze consultancy and facilities, and there's a slight decrease here for this university. For example, in the consultancy area, whereas when I look at the numbers, there's a spike here in 2022-2023 academic year, and we would maybe want to see the impact of this in the values, and the facilities related community interactions has increased, but maybe that's not reflected in the value. So this gives us a chance to analyze what's happening. Okay, so this is the end of economic impact. The next domain I can have a look at is well-being. For well-being domain, we are looking at student responses regarding how well information was communicated about university, colleges, mental well-being support services. And on the left, you can see that we are analyzing this per year, and the colors on the tables represent as per this legend. So the data here is quite detailed. It's broken down by course, level of study, subject level, and mode of study. And on the first table, we want to be above the benchmark. So this is our positivity measure, and we want to pass the benchmark. Here you can see that red represents being below the benchmark. And for accounting, the number seems to be slightly lower. And let's see if there's an increase in 2025. And yes, there seems to be an increase. And it seems like things have improved. But now there's new data here that wasn't there before regarding Asian studies. And in this chart, we are looking at the same data in a different way. We are now looking at the years, and we want to see if we have improved from 1 year to another. And you can see the change in the indicator legend here. We don't want to see decreases here, obviously. We want to see some increases from 1 year to another. And I can have a look at different courses. The next thing I can do here is the well-being of place. So this is for our local authority. If you switch between universities, you might have to select your local authority here again. But in this demonstration, we're still with Camden, and we are looking at some place metrics here regarding well-being. We're looking at anxiety, happiness, life is worthwhile, and satisfaction. And you can see some additional information here regarding these metrics. and also female and male life expectancy. Obviously, we want to see some increases here, and female life expectancy is slightly increased. And I think the same is applicable for male life expectancy in Camden as well. So this is the end of the well-being domain. The next domain we can have a look at is environment. So environmental impact. So we are looking at the first type of analysis for environment, the energy efficiency. So for energy efficiency, these are the metrics with their actual numbers for each academic year. The energy consumption, what the university is doing regarding all these metrics in carbon emissions, renewable energy, and the such. And in the lower graph, this is the trend of the exact same information. So if we had environmental targets that we want to track, this trend is going to tell us if we have achieved them or not. So if there's a specific spike or a reduction that we want to see, it would be visible for us here. So again, there is the inner domain navigation here. So for environment, I can see that I can have a look at fuel poverty, EPC score, and gas emissions. So let's go to fuel poverty. Here, we're looking at fuel poverty gap in pounds and percentage of poor households. I can look at different regions here if I wanted. So we're in London, the gap in terms of pounds has reduced for the last year, but it looks like there's a slight increase in the proportion of poor households. And we're looking at London here. So the next analysis, again, there's some explainer here about the metrics. So the next analysis is the EPC score. What we are looking at here is the percentage of dwellings with EPC band below C. So we're looking at the inefficiency. And for London, it looks like the most inefficient type of dwelling is semi-detached, and the flats and maisonettes are doing much better compared to detached and semi-detached. And this is a stacked graph showing different years. So at the top it's 2023 and at the bottom it's 2025. So for the same colors we can see if the trend has changed or stayed the same. What's next? Gas emissions. Oh, here we're looking at, again, some detailed information about greenhouse gas emissions, and the breakdown is by different sectors, the type of gas, and for different regions. So I can change the gas here if I wanted. So let's look at carbon dioxide that's coming from domestic. And the graph shows me the percentage difference from one year to another, and this is looking really good. So if we wanted to reduce, obviously we wanted to reduce, and this is looking good. And if I wanted to look at different things, if I want to have a look at transport, for example, again I can see what's happening in London. And there's a gas emissions region graph, and this is the exact same information as the previous one, but it's showing us the regional contributors. So for if I want to see what's happening with carbon dioxide in industry, I can see the contributors by region. And here in the lower graph, I can see that the biggest contributor of greenhouse gas in London is domestic, and the next one is transport. Okay, so this is the end of environmental impact. I can see that we have looked at everything here, and now I can navigate to the next domain, and that's facilities. For facilities, the first thing we see is the gross internal area percentage change for our university and a detailed breakdown of buildings and spaces. And as usual, you have some explainer on the side. And if we wanted to increase our number of cycle spaces while increasing our number of buildings, but it looks like there's some slight shrinkage here, and the graph shows us that there's a slight decrease in gross internal area. Here we can analyze these. Okay, so again, what's the inner domain navigation? The next thing I see here is Community Needs Index. What is Community Needs Index Civic Asset Score? What it's measuring here, it's explained here. Again, I can have a look at different regions if I wanted to. Okay, for this Community Needs Index, the data is showing 1 year, 2023, and London doesn't seem to be looking that good. The best region seems to be east of England, followed by southeast. And here I can see specific local authority if I wanted to. Havering is doing good, for example. Okay, what's next here? Community assets. So what we're looking at here is density of community-owned assets and density of sports and leisure assets. Again, the date we're looking at is 2023. You can see the explanation of these metrics. And when it comes to density of community-owned assets, London is doing great, and the next one is southeast. And for sports and leisure, it's southeast, followed by London for 2023. For this domain, the next thing I can do is benchmark. You can see that I had selected Bournemouth and Goldsmith to benchmark myself regarding non-residential, residential, and total gross internal area. I can change that if I want to have a look at different schools and compare myself in the area of the and the facilities of those universities. So that's the end of the facilities domain. The next thing we have is social. So for social, we're seeing the results of community life survey. So for our region, again, I can change the regions here if I wanted. We see the results of civic participation and volunteering at least once in the last 12 months. If you want to see details of these metrics, you can always click on data sources. I'm going to show in a minute, and the details will be there. But when we look at London, there's a decrease after the pandemic, and it looks like it hasn't picked up regarding formal or informal volunteering or civic participation. Okay, the last domain we have is institutional strategy and leadership. This page is for you to explore and read. It explains why it looks different because it is in terms of charts and data visualizations. There's some really detailed information here regarding things that can help you, tools that you can use, and sources you can go to regarding this domain to analyze your university and maybe have a look at best practices and what's happening. Okay, the last thing we can have a look is the data sources. So for each domain, you can see how the charts and data are populated, and you can have a look where it's coming from.